Yes, that is where we will start off the security challenge that the country faces. Markwe?
Chamberlain, we have with us this morning Mr. Kayode Ajula, who is a legal practitioner. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily. Good morning. Well, you have seen the furore that has trailed the killing of Nigerians on roads, on the highways, in their villages, in their farmlands, in some instances. Now, some people differentiate. Some other people say it's one and the same threat we're facing. But there is general insecurity in the land. Those who know say we should go back to the 2014 National Conference. Some say we should take our model. You heard from, I don't know if you listened to Professor Wale Soyinka, who says that other countries have been more successful at this. We've seen former President Olusegun Obasanjo also writing on the security situation in the land. Can you help make sense of all that you have seen so far, you know, and what your thoughts are on what the current insecurity in the country is?
Well, you know, when we're talking of insecurity in Nigeria, there's no doubt that that is a problem now, and nobody can come to deny that there is nothing like that. It is very prevalent virtually everywhere. And if we should continue to ask what really caused it, of course, we should have to understand that because of most of all this economic problem, that is what it is. But, and it's always so disheartening to find out that to even discuss it, you see our people playing politics over the issue of lives and properties. And particularly, this is even the real function and duty of government. Now, let's start with this issue of constitutional conference and whatever you call it. You know, our leaders, they always like to be politically correct, and that's why you see former president saying that his 2014 constitutional conference must be implemented. The first question any Nigerians inside Nigeria should ask is that when you were there, why don't you implement it?
No, he didn't say must be implemented. I think he was just suggesting that it might be able to help.
Now, but another issue is this. The truth of the matter is that implementing that will cause some problem because there are some key stakeholders that choose to boycott that conference. And in return, they promise Nigeria through their manifestos you need to see the lofty manifesto. This is a policy we are going to implement. And by the time you look at it very well, it's exactly like the recommendation of that 2014 conference. What my thinking, and I believe all Nigerians that believe in Nigeria, is to ask that APC manifesto, because there they talk of true federalism, they talked about increasing manpower of military and the police and security personnel and all that. The question we should be asking is that why can't they implement what they promised Nigeria? Because the issue is this, done with the half-print manifesto is what they present to Nigeria to say everything will be perfect, we make things work perfectly for Nigeria. And they found themselves there. So I believe what we'll be talking about is to do that, is to ensure total compliance with that manifesto, because I see it as more a social contract. But unfortunately, what everybody wants to talk about is that let us go for another constitutional conference or let us implement one. I'm not saying that that's not what it is. What Nigeria wants is restructuring. There are many ways to restructure Nigeria. Each day, like this morning, I place side by side the recommendation of that 2014 constitutional conference with the manifesto of APC. Everything look alike. I'm serious. You need to go through it again. Now, why can't you say you are in power now? Why don't you implement that? That having said that, the issue of security is so, I know many people will keep on saying that maybe because somebody's in power, so you need to really blackmail or try to talk about the people around that, the issue of this Fulani men and co. But like yesterday, I told most of my friends, I had a very first-hand experience of it. This thing is real. Initially, I'm one of those that have been saying that when we criminality is criminality. Criminals are criminal. We need not really call some people and say they are the one perpetrating it. But I must say the truth. This thing is real. They are all over. I was in my state yesterday. You will see Fulani men under the auspices of one Mieti Allah. You see the vigilante group of Ondo State. In this country, in the southwest, all over, nobody is checking them. I mean, even when we stop them, because I'm with some security and men, when we stop them, we're even trying to call the DPO, trying to call the police that they are aware that they are there. So where are the police? They said they've gone. And every day you see on that same road.
Please just help us understand this. You're saying what precisely? That you were in Ondo State
yesterday? In Ondo State yesterday.
Yes. What did
yesterday,
you see?
I'm not talking of last week. Yesterday, around 4 p.m. yesterday, you saw this Fulani S-men. I even showed that they should identify themselves.
With cattle?
With cattle. With guns, with cutlass and everything. They even brought out their ID card and to show me that they are vigilante group. And according to their word, they are the one securing the highway in Nigeria. I saw them. I snapped their passport and their, what do they call it? The ID card, everything. I snapped it for information. And I asked them. They even told me that it's police and the security, they are aware of what they are doing. I'm now wondering that. So in the southeast, saying that they don't want Fulani men to secure their place. So they're already securing some places in Yoruba land. This is real. So the question is this. And if you say you are securing, and mind you, we are not castigating anybody. I'm from Europe. I'm from the southwest. I live in Lagos before. We live in Ibadan. Our security then, most of them, they are these northerners. We don't have a problem with them. But when things start happening, you are seeing that things has gone beyond what it is. People need to talk. The question is that, what are they doing there? Where are the police? Where are these federal highway patrol? What are they doing? They've abandoned the road, left it for some people, and you expect people to talk. People need to shout. And we need to say something. You know, nobody has monopoly of violence. That is one thing. If some people choose to be quiet, now everybody's shouting. I'm afraid very soon they will take action, and it may be bloody. Maybe it may not go well for this country.
It is very interesting. I mean, the scenario which you just painted, I'm still trying to understand whether or not you said they were with cattle. Were they with cattle?
They are with cattle.
Those ones were with cattle?
Certainly. You know, one thing is this. When I saw them, of course, if I'm alone, I won't even have the audacity to stop, because I saw them. What are these people? And you see gone. Initially, some weeks back, we had a meeting with the Areonawa Campo, and where we agreed that we need not castigate these Fulanis. I believe any Fulani that decided to go around doing his business, nobody should castigate them. But we try to profile them. Anybody you see with gun, because no law permits you to use any such weapons, we should know that they are criminals. And I was passing and I saw them. Oh, these are the people. Of course, I have the audacity because you have armed men around you, and to stop them. Come, what are you doing here? And they explained themselves. While we are challenging them, they were even saying they are even the one, they are there to secure the road. They brought out the ID card. I have the picture. I took the picture. They even allowed me to take their pictures. Not that maybe we're doing it in a somehow way. They agree. You need to see the audacity. You need to see the boldness in them. And I asked myself, is this thing real?
That is definitely very, there are definitely questions to be asked in that regard. But one will wonder why it is so difficult, as you rightly pointed out, to implement the reports of this conference if they are very similar. Because you just said that some people are trying to politicize, the situation. Some people will say, well, what do you mean by that? Let me ask you to explain what you mean by politicization first.
No, what I meant by that is that you find that everybody always believes that what I'm doing is what people should. That's why I try to raise the issue that when I learned that, though you've already put in the proper perspective, that he is not saying that it should be implemented, but there's some part of the recommendation of the 2014 Constitutional Conference that could still be used. But I'm trying to say that I believe all Nigerians would agree that there is need for restructuring. And when you check the manifestos of APC today, it contains all. I remember some days back, we even have where the APC constituted the governor of Kaduna State, Malame Rufai, to look at that manifesto to ensure that, I'm sure he has already presented his recommendation. The issue is this: 2014 Constitutional Conference manifesto, all what Nigeria needs is restructuring. We need to restructure Nigeria, and I don't want to believe that it takes so long of time to restructure it, even if it means to to amend the constitution is something that could be done within a GFT. If it means we would allocate some money to appropriate money within 2 or 3 days, the National Assembly will convene or reconvene or call themselves back to quickly do that. Then even amending the constitution. So what stopped this thing to be done? I think this thing needs political will. This thing needs seriousness. And like I've been saying, I've been asking many people, this is it. Everybody, Nigerians have one voice to ensure, to talk about this restructuring. And the question that keep on agitating my mind, and I'm sure with many people, is that why this thing we are tarrying, we are hesitating to do this.
I'm also looking at the recommendations. Since we're all talking about restructuring, what exactly, which one of the recommendations would you say, could actually help achieve the desired results? The recommendations of the 2014 National Conference were extensive.
Yes,
they covered creation of states.
Yes,
they talked about the president picking his vice president from the parliament. They wanted somebody who had already been elected, so to speak. They also talked about just having 2 tiers of government, federal and state, so that states can create as many local governments as they want to. They talked about revenue allocation formula. They want more resources to the states, so to speak. They also talked about resource control, which was a really thorny issue at the point in time. I think they recommended that another committee be set up to advise the president appropriately. But they also talked about increasing the amount that is currently in the Constitution, so I think from 13 to 17% or thereabout. Now, which one of these recommendations, I'm sure you said you were looking at the manifesto of the APC, yes, and you were also looking at the report of the 2014 National Conference. Which one of them do you think, could actually help bring about the peace that we're looking for?
Well, when it comes to issue of finance, you know that once you can settle the issue of finance, like maybe half of the problem is already solved. And by the time you looked at it, you mentioned it, when it comes to revenue formula, when it comes to fiscal federalism, on both the APC manifesto and the 2014 recommendation, you find out that they agreed together. And this, to me, is one of the main issues. When we talk of restructuring today, many people may have different idea of restructuring, but one thing that is so clear is that people talked about federalism. And when you talk of federalism, it must come pari passu with fiscal federalism. That one can start with this, that's juggling with the revenue formula. Today, no state, nobody is at peace to see that the federal government seems to have the upper hand, taking almost about 40%, 60% of the national cake. And the idea of this revenue formula to change it, to restructure it, is to ensure that this power, that is money. Whenever people talk of power, you find out that it is the issue of fund, is revenue sharing and co. It must be restructured in such a way that more power, more resources will be given to the state. And once you allow that, they'll be able to take care of themselves. Even the issue of security we are talking about. Some states, I don't want to believe again that when we say we don't have state police in Nigeria, state police have been there for long. It just depends on nomenclature. You see all these vigilantes, you see all those Kai, Lama, all these last man co.
Traffic control agents.
Control agent. But with more money, states will be able to do what they've been trying to do. I believe to start this restructuring, let's start with the issue of funding. Let's start with the restructuring of our revenue allocation. Then we will know that we are taking a step. I'm not saying that we can do all, because if we check the manifesto of the APC, very positive or prodigals, so big, so heavy, so much. But you can pick one or two. If one or two could be done, you find out that we won't have all this agitation. Nigeria will be at peace and things will move forward. Well,
let's quickly introduce our guest who's just joined us now. Our Mr. Rafsanjani is Executive Director of the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC. He's also the Head of Transparency International here in Nigeria and the Chairman Board of Amnesty International in Nigeria as well. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers.
Good morning. Well, you have heard some of the discussions too around the 2014 National Conference. I think it was President Goodluck Jonathan who asked that 2014 conference, the recommendations be revisited as one of the solutions that could actually bring about peace in the country. Do you agree with him?
Thank you very much. Well, I think first and foremost, we have to understand that the Nigerian political elite, they always find a way of deceiving and actually, making Nigerians look there as if they are fool. I was part of the 2014 National Conference delegate as a civil society representative, and that conference, had a lot of Nigerians, from different sectors, and coming to articulate very progressive ideas, and issues were debated, discussed, agreed, voted for, and these reports were made available to the government even in 3 phases. One, issues that has to do with the policy which the President Jonathan then could on his own as President of Nigeria can actually implement, and issues that has to do with constitutional amendment which will have to be carried out by the National Assembly, and issues that has to do with issues that require some legislation. Now, to even simplify the work, this conference delegates, they met even some of the bills. They went ahead to even propose some of the bills. In other words, the work was done in a manner that, all that required then, if there was genuinity and sincerity and political will, was to begin to, take action. Now, because the political class in Nigeria, they always want to deceive Nigerians. They always want to, take, advantage when they are not in the power to now see the faults of others, not theirs. This report was first mutilated. Secondly, it was abandoned. Now, remember, from 1999 up to the time when Obasanjo left power, we had a very robust constitutional review amendment. Constitutional, CFCR, Citizens Forum for Constitutional Reform. We went around from communities to the local government, to the state, to the region, to the national, discussing Nigerian issues and problems on what need to be, amended in that constitution. It took years and enormous resources to do that. At the end of the day, even the government itself, it abandoned its own process because of self-centered interests of the elite. Now, during Eradua, we had a very progressive electoral reform, reform committee with Eradua, who admitted then that his election was full of challenges. And he set up, a committee with respectable Nigerians. They went around, we went around as civil society, come up with very solid recommendation on how we think we can have electoral integrity and ensure political integrity in the process. At the end of the day, that report was not done, was not taken. So actually, the problem
You're talking about the Justice Uwais
Justice
committee.
Uwais committee. As a matter of fact, what Nigerians want, because even if you assemble another team now, to do, conference, you are going to end up in the same thing 20 years down the line. We have all these beautiful reports produced with a lot of resources, with a lot of time, with a lot of energy and, enthusiasm by Nigerians. Yet, because the political class, they are not interested. When they come to tell you restructuring, you know that, honestly, they are not genuine. Many of them, they are not genuine. Because when they have the opportunity to take certain action, when they have even the power to do that, they will not do that. They will just wait until when they are out of power, then they will start shouting, meet conference. Meanwhile, we have enough reports that if we are serious, we could look at some of these reports and be able to, apply them, in the manner that we can resolve the problems. So all I am saying is that, as it is today, in my opinion, it's not a national conference that you are looking for. What you are looking for is action to implement various reports. We can harmonize those reports.
Which is basically what the former president was saying.
No, the former president, I'm saying that he has no moral, justification to make that claim, because he has set up a committee, he had the time, a report was given to him, during he has the opportunity to implement at least the policy aspect, you know, he refused. Now he is coming to talk about, you know, report. Why do you want to abandon your own responsibility and then be asking somebody to do his own, you know, your own bid?
Okay,
I
so
am saying that the political class.
I mean, let us assume, let us concede without agreeing. I don't know how that is said. Now, how do you lawyers say that? Now, assuming.
Let us concord with it. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, let us just give that to you now, assuming that he has no moral justification. But you have just said again that we don't need another conference, that we should look at all these former reports.
Absolutely.
You know, to bring up something new.
Absolutely.
Shouldn't we, how best can we put pressure on the government? Because, again, they too have also promised restructuring in their own manifesto. And we're yet to see anything that is being restructured.
This is what I told you. This elite, they are the same. They deceive Nigerians all the time. This batch of elite who have been agitating and giving excuses and reasons that the problems of Nigeria is XYZ. They came to power and they didn't do nothing concerning restructuring, concerning changing policies, and concerning responding to the problems, the yearning and aspiration of Nigerians. So another set of political elite will come to begin to agitate for that, because most of those elites, they don't mean well for Nigeria, because if they mean well, they have opportunity. But what else do you want? You know, you are in government, you have the power, you have the resources, you have the mandate, you have the will to do that, but you refuse to do that. Now you will go back and start talking. What are you talking? Look, Nigerians should no longer take this elite serious. The problem is actually with them. You see, they perpetuate corruption, they perpetuate underdevelopment, they perpetuate hatred, they perpetuate all sorts of things that will make Nigerians to look you and I as if we are the problem. No. They are, because they have the power, they have the responsibility, they have the mandate. Many of them were elected. What happened? They didn't do nothing. So all I am saying is that Nigerian problems, as they are not something that cannot be addressed. They can be addressed with political will, with sincerity, and with honesty. Look, many Nigerians, they are not...
Mr. Rafsanjani, I'm going to ask you to hold your thoughts a bit. Let me quickly ask you, are you going to share your pictures? Will you be willing to share your pictures with us?
Certainly.
Okay.
Certainly.
Let us take another moment. Now, when we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Please stay with us. So talking about the 2014 National Conference and calls now to implement the report of the 2014 beg your pardon, National Conference. And we're being joined now by Sani Abdullahi Shinkafi, who was a delegate at the 2014 National Conference. We also still have with us in the studio our Musa Rafsanjani, who is the Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC. And we also have Mr. Kayode Ajolo, who is a legal practitioner. Well, gentlemen, let me quickly take this question to Mr. Shinkafi, who I believe, of course, is going to say we should implement the report of the 2014 National Conference. But I'm going to ask you specifically, which one of the recommendations reached in the 2014 National Conference do you think will help, you know, bring down the menace of security which you're currently facing in the country?
Yes, the National Conference was convened by the past administration of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan on 17 March 2014. There is no alternative to the national dialogue. And the reason why the National Conference was convened is for us to remain united as a country. And if the recommendations which were reached during the National Conference are being implemented, I think there will be any problem. The committees, there was a committee, 20 committees were set off before the plenary. And those committees that they deliver, we have a result about more than 600 recommendations. And out of the recommendations, there is good, bad, and ugly. You understand? Some segment of the country may accept some of the recommendation. Some of the segment of the country may not accept it. And there are some recommendations that need executive order, and there are some recommendations that need legislation. And there are even some recommendations that a constitution must be amended to incorporate it in our constitution.
Yes, so Mr. Rafsanjani, who was also a member of that conference, has told us that. But I'm asking you specifically, which one of the recommendations you think would help us out with the current quagmire we're in?
Yeah, like in the southeast zone, there is clamoring for marginalization in terms of state creation. And in the recommendation, I think we have recommended 18 additional states should be created. And each geopolitical zone will have 3 additional states. And with that, I think it will bring a lot of sanity. Those people who are calling for restructuring, a lot of recommendation, in terms of the national security, the issue of security, we have recommended the creation of state police, local government police, community neighborhood police, and the federating unit will be the supervising police. When there is crisis, then they will intervene. I think with the size of population in Nigeria, there is need for the state police, community neighborhood police, and the local government police. And even there in the recommendation, there's a lot of abolishment of this federation unit and rotation of presidential office of the president across the 6 geopolitical zone or across the north and south. Like, let me take you an example of the southeast. They always feel like now they are marginalized in terms of having a president from the southeast zone. So in our recommendation, there's rotational president across the north and south, and across this geopolitical zone, and also on the issue of governorship in a state. There's also rotation of the governorship seat among the 3 senatorial districts. So if all those things are taken care of, some people, also some segment of the society, also ethnic, will not feel marginalized.
Let's go to Lagos now and take a question or two. Gentlemen.
Let me ask Mr. Kayode Ajulo this question. You mentioned something the other time about the fellows that you saw along the road and you stopped to talk to them. And you also mentioned something that, look, along the line over the years, we've had to have conversations with them, live with them. They have been performing this security responsibilities over time. I'm just wondering what your position is now in the light of, on the one hand, what's going on now, the heightened security challenges that we are facing, in the light of the fact that many households in the city where you live still call on these same guys to secure their personal homes. Is there any risk in that regard?
What I try to explain about that is that before there seemed to be disunity, there seemed to be people are not trusting themselves again. Before, even in the southwest, in our houses in Ibadan, in Lagos, you have most of this northerners being the one that always manned our gates and even do most of the show, that we so much trust each other. But as it is today, that trust is no more there. And there must be some things that must have caused that. So it is not about, maybe people think about hatred, because today people will say because you hate those in the north, but because of the reality of things that now their security is being threatened. And like I mentioned earlier, before you have it in our household, we live together, we play together. But now you see some people on highways, you see them everywhere in the bush, in the bush, killing people. That one alone shows that things has changed, shows that we need something must be done. I think the best thing is our area must be secured, secure it, and again, all those people that call themselves vigilante standing on the highway in the name of guiding people. The question is that where are the natives? Where are those people that live around that place? Can they secure their place? I believe it is more or less something that nobody can trust. And I think the right thing is to do is to look for a way to move them from such highways and the bush.
Okay, we'll come, we really don't have much time, but Dr. Shinkampi, let me ask you this. He talked about diminished trust quotient among the citizens. Is there, and in the light of what you said about, the recommendations in that 2014 National Conference report, that 18 additional states was proposed, how is that supposed to play out in the light of what we already have now?
That question was for you. I don't think you have an earpiece on. He's asking about the 18 states proposed. How is that supposed to play out, with what we currently have? How is that going to help out with the security situation, for instance?
Yeah, like I have said, it's a recommendation in our report, and we have more than 600 recommendations. Like what I'm saying, some delegate from the Southeast, we have received a lot of memorandum from the Southeast zone and some other zones, even in the Middle Belt, who are agitating for being marginalized. Like if you take, for example, in the Northwest, where I come from, we have 7 states in the Northwest zone. Well, in the Southeast, they have 5 states. And South and the other zones have 6 states. So some of the delegates in the national conference who came from Southeast, it was championed by some of the delegates that they had been marginalized. All the states, all the zones has 6 states, even though they have 7 states. So for equity, justice, and fairness, the committee who are charged to look into that state creation came out with such recommendation. And with the security situation we have in Nigeria, already, before even the inception of this administration, there are security challenges at hand. There are security challenges at hand, especially in the Northeast zone. And during the National Compass, there's a recommendation we made that there should be a rehabilitation, reconstruction of an area affected by insurgency and internal conflicts. There are some of the recommendations we made on such things. So I don't think creation of a state will give a problem to on that recommendation, because since we have recommended the creation of a state police, local government police, and local community neighborhood police, and the federating unit will still be maintained at the center when there's crisis. So I don't think creation of the state will even bring more sanity. You understand? To bring more sanity, because a lot of people I feel marginalized. Like let me give you an example. In my own state where I come from, in the recommendation we talk about rotation of governorship seat. In my state where I come from, the Western zone are in power for over 20 years. The former governor Yerima Bokura was there for 8 years. Abdulaziz Yari was there for 8 years. And the same governor here, the present governor, is from the same zone for additional 4 years. If you calculate it, it's 20 years. So some segment or some senatorial district will feel marginalized.
Well, I here understand they still have more questions from Lagos.
Okay, let me take it to Mr. Rafsanjani now. How effective do you see civil society organizations in the light of these whole security issues that we're having now? Is there anything civil society organizations can do? And is there anything citizens can do now in order to at least douse the tension of insecurity that we're having?
Thank you very much. Well, civil society organizations, we have been, advocating for more skilled and safe Nigeria and Nigerians. And you can see that the Nigerian political class, when they want to, destroy this country, they don't think about North-South, Muslim Christians, Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, Gwari, Ingas. They come together, share, their ideas on how to continue to loot, to steal, and to continue to create confusion and crisis. And that's exactly what has been playing out. And unfortunately, the ordinary Nigerians, who is in the market, who is just out there trying to survive, has always been the victim. They are the one that they mobilize according to this ethnic, religious, and geographical sentiment. At the same time, you see them, they sit down to steal the money, loot the money, create confusion, create hatred, among the ordinary folks. There's no difference between poor man in the south and the poor man in the north. It is the same poverty that has no any pace, But this political class, they are very clever. They always find a way to instigate, to incite one poor person against one poor person. You see them, all their children, they are in Europe and abroad, in America, enjoying, carrying the public funds, to go and loot abroad. They don't, think that there are other, their own people, they are also in trouble. He just made a point now that in even this agitation of rotational thing will not just stop at the federal, will also trickle down to the state level, because some people at the state, they will say that, okay, their zone, they have not also, produced. Look, once you abandon justice, political justice, economic justice, you cannot solve any problem of insecurity. The insecurity you see is as a result of the fact that, there's no justice in this country. There's no economic justice. There's no, distributive justice in this country. And as long as the population, is denied access to education, as long as the population is denied access to access opportunities, as long as, people are not, allowed to have access to job, there can never be any justice. I mean, there can never be any peace. So what you have is that it's a system, it's a political system that profits only political class, the ruling class. And whenever they are enjoying, you will never hear them talking about North-South. The example Kade just even gave, is also part of the electric scene. If you go to market, you will see that all these ethnic groups, they interact, they are together, But the political, politician, the political class, they will always use those vehicles of sentiment, which they don't even work toward addressing them. They work only toward increasing them. The ruling party, they articulated a lot of issues, even in terms of restructuring of this country. What are these issues that they have articulated in the manifesto that has been implemented? So the question that the issue that I'm saying is that civil society organizations have been talking about ensuring that, corruption in the procurement, of defense and security sector is resolved. Why do you have to spend this so-called security board when, there's no security, there's no real security? But governors, people in the executive all over, they siphon these public funds in the name of security board, and you leave even the security agencies starving, no modern equipment, no training. And even when you have this state police, I'm telling you, a state that is already parasite, they cannot even pay salary. Now we are talking about additional creating of additional state when they cannot even pay salary. Look, the problem of Nigeria, we all know it is all about the fact that there's no political and economic justice in this country. If you address the fiscal federalism, problem, and if you ensure that there is a mechanism for accountable and transparent leadership, and demand for accountability and governance, you would have been able to resolve a lot of problems. But that is not the kind of solution that the political elites are looking at. They are looking at how they will continue to siphon public funds, to continue to create this confusion, among Nigerians. That's what they are looking for. So I am saying that we as civil society, we will continue to demand that at local government, at the state, at national level, there must be accountability on how each and individual kobo is spent. And because many of these states are parasites, They cannot even, generate any income. They cannot even harness the abundant resources that they even have there to generate revenue, to put it for the use. That is why they are always running to Abuja to come and collect their share and share it. In fact, some of the local governments, they only function when there's money coming, to share at the end of the month. At the state level, even non-state actors have no voice. If you talk, the governor will deal with you, And we have seen it. They jailed so many people, they arrested so many people, simply because the citizens in those states, they demand for accountability. They ask the governors to be responsive and responsible in the way they do their thing. So when you are looking at restructuring in our own view as civil society, any restructuring that will not deal with issues of accountability, will not deal with issues of sanction, will not deal with issues of economic justice, will not deal with issues of empowering the disadvantaged Nigerians who the political class deliberately and consciously disadvantaged in order to continue to perpetrate their action, will not solve Nigerian problems. So the Nigerian security challenges is very rare, and we have seen just last week how even some alleged army run away with billions. We have issued statement demanding for explanation on how soldiers would run away with those millions and nobody has said a word. So the accountability is absent, is zero.
Accountability is certainly key, Mr. Sujani. I think that we understand that that the GOC involved in that particular scandal is currently under detention.
After civil society has made news,
there are definitely questions to be asked as to how soldiers. We understand now that the money is about ₦1 billion naira. What they were doing with that amount of money in cash. There definitely are questions to be asked in that regard. But let me quickly ask Mr. Ajulo whether or not he thinks that the letter of President Obasanjo was necessary. Let us also keep in mind that the Ooni of Ife, in recent times, we've seen traditional rulers getting involved also in the talk for security. The Ooni of Ife was at the villa to visit the president, and he spoke after that. He did say that indeed what they're talking about is true. They're strangers in the bush. That was what he said. He also, I think, just over the weekend as well, we saw that President Yemi Osinbajo, Vice President, beg your pardon, Yemi Osinbajo, has been visiting traditional rulers as well, talking about security. So let me ask you quickly: do you think the letter of President Olusegun Obasanjo was necessary, and what you make now of the involvement of traditional rulers?
Well, let me start with this Obasanjo's letter. For some time, I've already part of my principle not to even comment on anything that has to do with President Obasanjo. This is a personal decision, but I must. That letter is an exception. The letter, I must say, it is like he consulted far and wide before penning that letter. This is a letter that really is like a summary of aspiration of everybody in Nigeria. He spoke. He wrote like a statesman that he is and that he should be. And I believe, I'm yet to see anybody that should fault that letter. Because this is a letter that's quite well encompassing, try to call everything. And it's an advice. And this is the kind of advice every Nigerian wants from their leaders and those that we look up to. I know many people will raise the issue that if we should have or implement most of what is right now, Nigeria would have been better. Yes, that's what it is. But who knows? Sometimes we talked about born again. Who knows? Our headers, they are waking up to reality. Then on our KBC coming to Villa most of the time, talking to the president. I believe the main issue is with the people. Whether we like it or not, I must say this. I revere them. It is their stool. But the conduct, any KBC, any leader, any king, even sultan, that refuse to speak for his people, you will find that very soon the people will tell him that you are not leading us. I want to believe that what the Oni has been going to do in Villa is toward ensuring that there is peace in the land. But I must say something. In one of his statements, I noticed where he's raising the issue of civil war. I don't think everybody, even in the Southwest, we are not interested in peace, civil war. What we are interested in peace.
He said that.
And what we are saying is, if this issue of incessant killing should continue, nobody Nobody can say he has monopoly of violence. We can retaliate, but we just trying to look for a way to end this issue of killing and kidnapping. And I believe President, of course, should continue to speak with the traditional rulers, but in some society, it's not only the traditional rulers that are leaders. We have so many leaders, both political leaders, traditional leaders, religious leaders, even civil society. All these people must be carried along if actually one person.
Do you think that this will work in the north? Because we also have bandits. I mean, you talked about Zamfara State. I think a governor there is practicing appeasement now of the bandits. Is it working?
It's working very well. You see, the armed bandits in Zamfara State or in the northwest are well armed. And nobody can tell you the root cause, their chain of supply of arms and ammunition. And their armory, even their armory, they are even more armed than the Nigerian police and Nigerian military in the bush. Because you can see an armed bandit with AK-47 with more than 5 magazines. Well, you see a soldier or a policeman with 1 magazine. So how can he confront them? So, but the fees the president governor initiated is working. For the first 3 weeks, there is no any attack.
But we understand that there was a protest over the weekend. People carrying cops to the government house.
That cops they took to the government house is politically motivated. I'm not from PDP. I'm not speaking for the governor. I'm not holding brief for the governor. But I'm the son of the soil. And also I know what's happening in Zamfara State. For the first 6 years, there is killings, armed robbery, kidnapping, destruction of crops, rapes in Zamfara State. There was even a day where more than 186 people were killed. And the present governor, the former governor, have never visited any single village to condole with them. So this one now, as his sole peace is going, now they mobilize some youth to come with only 1 corpse and come and demonstrate. Where in my local government, where I come from, last 4 weeks, 34 people were killed in Tungakaho in my own local government. 34 people were killed.
So you say
and nobody took the corpse to government house. This one single corpse, they put it on a bike and take it to the government house. It has a political undertone.
Well, you say appeasement is working. There are huge questions to ask in that area, whether appeasement is the way to go, if indeed state authorities are getting overwhelmed. If you say that they're better armed, but I think the state authorities definitely, not just the state, by state I mean the federal government, which has monopoly or which should have monopoly of violence, they have questions to answer in that regard. But gentlemen, we have to thank you all for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. We're totally out of time. Mr. Sani Abdullahi Shinkafi is a delegate at the 2014 National Conference. Our Musarraf Sujani is Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, Head of Transparency International in Nigeria, Chairman Board of Amnesty International also here in Nigeria, and Mr. Kayode Ajolo is a legal practitioner. Gentlemen, thank you again for coming on Sunrise Daily. Well, that's it for this segment. The program continues in a moment. Please stay with us.